policy. We have over 490. Ideally, we're going to start with the first 100 to 125. The first 6 months from July till the fall, we were able to review, amend, and adopt 25 of those 490. Tonight, we're starting to look at another round of about 20. So it'll give us 45 of that 100 to 125. And so a goal would be to be able to review and have you amend and adopt the 25 in the next year. And it's looking like it's going to take 2 to 3 to review and amend and adopt our 490, even if we eliminate some. It takes a while. It's taking a while. So where is it? It's here at the district office at 5:30 or possibly 6:30, depending on feedback or how we want to go about that. When we started with trying one Monday meeting a month after a regular board meeting that could be dedicated to policy review. So we'll see how that goes. Why review them? Well, we're a pretty new board, and we're also with a new superintendent. It seemed appropriate to take a look at a 490, read, review, study, and understand. And then that way we can communicate confidence to the public and ourselves and staff that, hey, in the last 3 or 4 years, we've had a chance to read and review and understand our current policies. That's kind of the why behind it. Now, in the review, what we'll learn even tonight is that some require very little change, if any. So it's just more of an opportunity to be able to say we reviewed and are adopting it in a recent year. Kind of how we're going about this process. We're starting out here. We have a small team of 4 parents and a staff member and myself kind of facilitating, doing some of the behind the scenes, or I guess some of the legwork with ISBA's help to bring them forward for 2 readings with the board and the public. And still they're in very draft form. They're still in very draft form. And the idea is that the public does the same thing. The committee then gets a chance to review, study, cross-reference, read, and even make suggested comments or edits. Then the board, ultimately, after the 2 readings and looking at comments and revisions, you'll direct me for the final amendments and be the ones that adopt policy. We are attempting this electronically through Assembly. So then we'll have one portal that you'll see tonight where people can review, study, make comments, let us know what edits we want. You can see track changes. And then the version that we're operating off and amending before adoption will be in one portal so that it increase accuracy, ideally. And there we go. Ready?
Question. Is this an open forum to where the audience can ask questions?
Yeah, I believe this is more of a workshop, yeah.
Okay, so then I can ask questions, okay? I've got so that's part of it. I was reviewing the policies, and I see a number of color codes on those, and I really don't know what they represent. When you have a color code, you've got yellow, red, green, and blue. So what do they, now I've also noticed that some of the subjects, especially those in red, are lined out. And then there's portions of some of the policies where there's a line out but no highlight. So I'm just kind of curious on, one, what the color code is. Like for an example, did ISBA send some with a green highlight and then the review committee do a yellow or a blue highlight and then resubmit? That's one question. And then another I have is, in the right-hand corner of each submission, the status is published. And it says whether it's a draft, submitted, or reviewed. Now, over the past couple of weeks, I've seen where they've been changed from reviewed to, say, submitted, or submitted to reviewed. What does that indicate as far as the process and where these are? As far as, are they submitted? If they're submitted, who are they submitted to? To the board, to ISBA for a look at? The drafts, okay, the drafts.
Yeah, I guess probably just better go back and grab one subject at a time. here.
Okay, we'll go with, start with the colors. How's
Yeah,
that?
so.
Yeah, it's my change.
So I think as we go through, some of that will get answered, Ted. So, yeah, they're in different status, draft, they're all in draft ultimately. In review is the policy service from ISBA is looking at them before they send them to us. Submitted means I've made some revisions or edits and sent it to them to look at to see if it's still legal, if you will. Draft is no work has been done on it yet between ISBA's policy service and myself. I think those are the different statuses. So they just go back and forth till now we'll come here for first readings and second readings and till the board has it in a place that they're ready to adopt.
So I got a question then. If that's the case, when, up there in the corner where it says status draft, and you've got submitted or back and forth between us and the ISBA or whatever it is. So when it, when the committee and you are ready to move it forward to the board for the second reading, well, let's say, second reading.
Yeah. It won't, it'll continue to stay either in review or draft, until, the board clerk will keep track of first readings from tonight. And then I may go back and make some more edits based on the direction from you, still in draft or review. And then after the second reading, if it's ready for approval, then the board clerk would clean up all those edits and revisions and have the polished policy for you to adopt.
So with that said,
And then status, I don't know what it says for status.
so with that said though, we need to get some kind of an alert up there saying, okay, yes, this has been reviewed and moving forward. So this is the second reading of this policy. So when somebody else gets on assembly, they can see this now, okay, this is coming up for the second reading, so to speak.
I can ask them if that's an option. We could put in.
Because I can see the confusion in that. I mean, you're reading that as going back and forth, and you're thinking it's going back and forth in here to the board, ready to move forward. And
No,
it's not.
I assumed that it was Dr. Lynch and the co-writers at
Okay.
Yeah.
at ISBA. You answered the question for draft and review. The review was ISBA and Dr. Lynch reviewing them. But I never got to the submitted.
Yeah, submitted means I sent it to ISBA policy service to take a look at. And then it might go back and review
Okay,
or draft.
so primarily the work and the function right now is between you and ISBA
Correct.
to come up with these policies.
To get it, to get it in a place where now it's still very in draft form. And now the first read and second reading will happen.
What about the color code?
So the color codings are different track changes. Could be me making track changes, could be the board clerk making track changes, or it could be the ISBA's policy service making track changes. And if I click on it, when I'm in edit mode,
Yeah, just go down that pencil. Edit mode. It's not yours.
yeah,
I think it is finished.
there's only 2 editors right now. So if I,
You're probably not gonna have that.
there,
on yours.
you,
Probably not.
you won't.
It's not gonna allow you to do that.
So it's Tana.
She just made that.
Yeah.
So Ted,
Because
I can't see.
Blue.
So ads are blue.
Just put your chair right up here, Tim. if you can.
It just, when I'm in edit mode, I can, you won't know, what you'll know is the board clerk, I, or myself made a change, whatever color
So
it
so
is, any one of us.
any one of you. ISBA,
Now, I'll
yourself,
know.
and your-
Yeah, now when I'm in edit mode, I can put my cursor on the color and see who made it.
Okay, but generally speaking, the public, and when I get it, I just know that these are all changes. Now, when you say there are changes, are they omissions, additions?
They could be either, so it'll
Okay.
strike out, when you saw the red strike out, that's a potential omission.
Right,
And when you see the highlight, that's a potential add-on.
okay, I see that there's highlights like with the state code and current policy. Now, when they're highlighted, is that for admission or submission of these policies?
Addition.
Yeah. Now, the color code means nothing at this point.
The color code means we're adding, like right here, this eligibility to ride.
So to understand that the only omissions are those that are
strike
lined out.
Yes.
Correct, for now.
And so every other highlighted area is an addition.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
So, well, I'm just like right there, though, it's all in the green, but you see that it's struck. So I'm assuming you're taking out what we call to be the public, da-da-da-da, so you're taking that one out.
Correct.
And in that sentence, the parent or guardians would move up in the place of,
So,
And some of it is taking policy from our old, if you will, and inserting it into this updated one. Like this, the special ed section, okay, that was added in. And I'll go through these one at a time, so that might answer some of your questions. The eligibility and student contact, that's not new, that's taking policy, two other policies from SD41 and adding it to this one to consolidate a little bit into one policy. So it's a mix of legal content and customizing it for St. Mary's. And I'll try to point that out tonight as I go through each one of the 20, it might become more clear. So I'll start with this one, is that all right? This is 8100 transportation.
Oh.
I'm going kind of in a funky order, I guess, I don't know why. I can jump around according to that if you prefer.
well, whatever's on the agenda, we should probably stick to that, so.
Does it fall off?
13, and then 21, 40.
now, are you gonna review, since they're still in draft, are you gonna review those tonight also?
It depends, we'll see which ones, we're reviewing the ones that are on this agenda.
Well, there's 20 of them, and some of them have draft on.
And these are
So
the
then you're
first,
gonna review all 20 tonight.
that's the goal, if we get to it. Or 19,
Regardless of status.
yeah, whether it's in draft or in review, correct.
Okay,
So.
How will that
I'm just gonna
affect,
speak before we get into this.
first read and second read, because since
It
they're a
won't.
draft,
It won't, ultimately, they're all in draft. Even if iSpace looked at them or hasn't looked at them or looked at them more than once, they're all in draft. And what supersedes it is the board having a first reading, telling me what to admit or add, and the second reading. And then when they approve it, whatever status it was in, as soon as they approve it, that's the,
so if it's not approved at the second reading, it goes on to a third.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
yeah, the minimum will be 2. Whether it says in review or whether it says in draft. The board of trustees will supersede that.
Thank you.
Okay, so Tim,
So
kind of, I went
13,
out,
13?
kind of, well, hold on, I think we need to have Chris talk.
No, I'm listening for now.
Okay, so,
I
well,
just
just-
wanted to hear.
okay, well, just let me know if you want me to say something, because
Okay.
it's kind of it's not a board, meeting, it's open. So, anyway, just say, hey,
I just put my name down in case.
okay, all right, okay. I'll put it in case here.
Okay,
Okay,
so we'll look at 13, 13.
13. They're going off of the agenda.
Yeah, so we'll stick with the agenda here, so.
I'll go in that order. So you'll look at that one. It's almost identical to our current policy, which is 203.07. So it's really straightforward. The only comment there is April Hoy, our policy service person, just grabbed content from our current policy and added it in here. That was last adopted in 2020, so pretty recent, so no big changes, pretty straightforward.
Are you open to input at this time? Comments? Or do you want to read? I'll give you a chance. Yeah, read it.
Well, if we probably should, if we're gonna have per comment or per policy, probably a good thing to do it as we go, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I
Okay.
guess it's very.
Yeah, I reviewed the policy myself, and as Dr. Wrench said, it's a very recent policy. I don't see it as necessary. It's stated in this policy, state code will supersede policy will supersede. Policy should not override procedure. They are to work together. And it does in the original right, but not in the editing portion. And then the verbiage, I mean, how many people know what promulgated means? Which is changed in this also, I believe. Yeah, basically, I don't see why there should be any changes. I guess that,
I don't know what promulgated is.
yeah, yeah, it's right, yeah, it's right there.
Written by the district.
This is a new policy, am I correct?
It's not new, we had it in 2020, so as a review,
Okay,
this again would, the main change would be the number, and the date at the bottom would now read board adopted in the year 2023-24.
okay,
What does that do? It gives, yeah, go ahead.
so there's no changes on this?
I don't see any changes on
Yeah,
this.
okay. Thank,
Is it the policy number is changing?
that's, okay,
And so keep in mind in a lot of these that it'll just be updated at the bottom that, hey, yes, we did look at this policy. It hadn't changed since, 2018, so to speak, but we need to review it and update it for 2024.
Does this get rid of that old policy, the 23.07?
Yes, and it becomes 1313 conflicting policy.
So then there's, but does it say that it replaces that? And then you could look back and say that, yeah, they adopted that in whatever year.
It'll
just
read
replace it.
1313 conflicting policies adopted September 2023, because it's the same name and
Yeah.
the same. content.
Usually on those that they'll have a list at the very bottom of the policies when they've been updated. So
Yeah, I've seen that, but that sounds like it's gonna go away because we're changing the whole policy number and everything.
Doesn't, we're changing the policy number, not the title and not the content. So can that all be at the bottom for assembly? I mean, it can, we can have it however we want in the footnotes.
I think it shows when it was originated and when it was reviewed and updated.
Yeah,
can I ask what the purpose is? I mean, if it's not broke, why fix it?
Well, because we have to show that we did look at it and we did update it.
So that process incorporates a change of policy number. Is that what you're telling me?
it doesn't have to. We're choosing to change the policy number just to add to many surrounding school districts have this numbering system. And when looking at ISBA's examples, they have this numbering system. So for labor intensity, it's kind of nice to have a similar numbering system.
So the purpose is to change the numbering system of existing policies.
That's one purpose. The other purpose is what I was sharing with, being a fairly new board and a new superintendent. It seemed appropriate to convey that we reviewed all of our policies in a recent years that we've studied, read, and adopted amended to the current. And and some will need very little change and some will need a little bit more change.
Did you have something, Jenny?
I did. So at the bottom where it shows all of those times that it's been reviewed, looked at, changed, whatnot, is it possible with the new system for that to be, for those dates to be a hyperlink to show the previous version? Is that a possibility?
Well, I think here's a lot of the big picture, what's going on here is, okay, so we're taking basically the old 3-ring binder policies and we're moving to Assembly, which is all electronic. And so I can't tell you what's gonna be able to be crossed and what's not gonna be able to be brought over and put in there. I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, the reason why we're changing these numbers, the number system, is because ISBA works with Assembly and for the policy update, so they've already got their number system. So for us to go back in there and try and use our number system would be just, throwing.
No, and I get that. I was just wondering if, because these are online currently, if it was possible to link the new versions to the old version.
Yeah, that I couldn't tell you. That's beyond my wheelhouse, ma'am.
Gotcha.
Can you answer that, Dr. Wrench? You're
I
working-
can't without asking Assembly. I'd have to ask Assembly and then and also best practices.
Yeah.
You know, what we can, I believe Assembly has a pretty good, what do you call it, support system. And so, if we can take a note down saying, hey, can we check on this? And, we'll get back to you.
Yeah, that would be.
You're gonna have to bear with us a little bit on this stuff.
Yeah.
It's all new too.
Yeah, I understand it's a new system. You guys are learning all the ins and outs. I just think that would be a really good way to go, and then we could
Okay.
have both of that at our fingertips.
I think it would be.
I may be jumping the gun here, but in reviewing some of these policies, of course, they reference all these other laws and policies. And especially some, I can't think of which one will come across it, where it's highlighted and they're eliminated. But there's no way for me to know what it is. So we're eliminating policy here in these new policies, and I don't know what they are and I don't have access to it now.
I can explain that, Ted.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it is confusing. So part of the process with the new numbering system is, we'll run through some tonight, like you said.
Yes.
It will reference, let's say graduation policy, and it's 27 something. Well, we don't have that policy yet, so we can't reference it yet. However, I can cross it out and reference our graduation policy, which is like 603 something. That's what you'll see. So you'll see the same topic and the same policy. The strikeout is the number might differ at this point.
Is there any way for us to know what that policy is so that we have a reference as to, is this a new policy? Is it better than the old that we're eliminating?
We're not eliminating any. It's the policy 2710 is the example policy in ISBA that we don't have yet for graduation, for example. We have a graduation policy and it's like 603 something. We'll look at it tonight. So that still remains in there. And I'll point it out tonight, see if that helps answer. And then, yes, there will be a way for you to reference that.
It makes sense. We're just recataloging pretty much. And it should have the old policy number and all the revisions, the adoption date, where they changed in there. It should still be in the old policy, just a new number is what it sounds like, what we're trying to do here.
Yes.
In
I think-
to some degree.
I think if there is a way to hyperlink it, like Jenny was saying, that would really benefit you guys, so
So
it
the
doesn't look
stuff's
like
not
you're
just
trying to
lost.
cover up your
Yeah.
tracks.
No, I
or-
get it, because here comes a new policy number with, you think a brand new policy that's, you don't know which one it's, superseding, so to speak. And you'd like to go back and see what that is.
And that'll alleviate different phone calls and printings from from here too, where we can just click online and toggle back and forth.
Uh-huh. So,
Somebody would have.
I guess, here's, you could go to policy, entrance placement transfer, and there is it's board policy 3010. And then it's crossed out with no highlight, and then next to it is 501.09, which is highlighted in blue.
Correct.
I mean, I don't understand what's happening
What that
here.
means,
It's
so
just the-
the 50107, or, so any of these that are not in the brackets, these are our current policies.
Mhm.
This is the new numbering system. So essentially, every policy needs to be renumbered into the new system so that it flows.
Okay,
Okay,
Okay.
some of those policies are gonna stay exactly the same, other than the number. Some of them are also gonna get monkeyed with to change the verbiage. Does that help?
yes.
And one thing
And I think it'll become
Yeah.
more clear.
Go ahead, Dana.
it's confusing right now,
Yeah.
but one thing with Sibley and changing the numbers, you can search for a title in the policy.
And get there.
Say you want something on attendance. You can actually set a filter that you can, it allows you to find any policy on attendance.
Simply allows the public to access.
Yeah, faster and easier is with this numbering system. As clunky as it is right now, and believe me, I've been working with it for like.
I haven't tried,
Like
but
Tana said, a few months, so it is clunky, but and it's not super clear, but as we go through, I think it starts to become a little more clear, like Jenny explained it really well.
I haven't tried to access state code through Simply. Is that possible?
No.
No, okay.
Although you can narrow it down by, so if you're wanting to know, here's a policy, and you're like, what does Idaho code have to say about it? If you look at the reference, legal reference right below it, it will list any statute related to that topic and any federal law related to that topic.
And state and
Correct.
and
Or like a
state
special ed manual.
education, yes.
Wouldn't you be able, in the search bar though, too, to put that state code in there, and then it would populate all the policies that had that code?
I
Because it's
haven't
attached
had,
as content?
I don't think so. You could try it. I think all it does is search by
Just the
known
text
number or
in-
title, if you get the right word of the title.
Oh, okay.
That would be a really neat feature one day, because it's, as you know, just another one of those steps.
So is the verbiage gonna have to be exact when you
No.
type it in? Okay,
No, that's what's kind of nice about
that is
Simply.
nice.
Both, you don't have to have the exact verbiage and to have a similar number system. It's just the efficiency and the time saving for, right?
And our current policies are still listed right now on our website.
so they could actually go back and forth
If
Yeah.
to,
they so choose.
Okay.
Yes, yes. And we'll toggle tonight, so you can see that.
okay. Move
Ready?
forward?
We're getting there.
Yeah. No, it's gonna be miserable.
It's a
There's
big
no doubt about it.
undertaking, yeah.
Just hang in there. We'll get it.
Jan and I have never just changed. Okay, so,
So board
Where we at?
policy 20307 1313. There was no changes,
just the number.
okay? Okay, and board policy 501, 50501, 2140, use of
Yes.
school records and student posters.
Yes.
Guess I better go forward here on this one.
And if you use the arrow, it'll toggle between the policies we're talking about. The arrow that's in the gray tab.
Yeah, I tried that.
Oh, I see how right there in the gray where it says revision project.
Far left and far right, you can go right or left.
The toggle between what?
The
They hit
policy.
the arrow, it goes to the next policy that we're talking about.
Oh, it's in order?
When we did it off the front page, the home page.
Oh, okay.
If you're logged in, I think it's different.
Oh, I'm logged in. I got you, okay.
It's gonna be different.
So, yeah.
So we're 2140.
Student family
family privacy rights.
So it's a slightly different title than our old one, and it's a new
I'm
number.
sorry.
It's like you brought that, I can look at it, instead of bringing it up on my phone. Like you're-
Sorry, I'm just hard.
So,
You added
Class size?
No.
Well, records of, what?
2140.
2140.
All right, well, it says something different on the agenda than it does
I
on the
think
policy.
2240.
It says student and family privacy rights, but on the agenda it says use of school records and student posters.
correct. So our old policy had that title. The
That
new-
was the old title?
Yes.
Okay.
The new policy has both a slightly different title, if we want, and a different number.
So let me get this straight then. On here is the old titles and on here is the new ones.
Yeah,
Okay.
you got it.
I think mostly they're the same.
Mostly, they're the same
That's the
title.
old title.
And it's student.
That wasn't brought to my
You
attention.
go with this number, 2140. So we're converting to this and that title.
Just
All
use the
blur.
number.
I know.
Maybe I'm gonna have to come in at 3:30. Yeah.
So, on the screen there, you'll see some, I guess, tracked highlights.
So the blue you added,
Well, kind of, yeah, it looks like it. And there's some questions. And ask what is the designee,
and then the red is struck, obviously.
strike out. It's very, let me read my notes.
And you've got red that's struck, and then you've got green. And then yellow that's struck.
And then, Paul, if you scroll
Most of
down
it-
the top,
Is identical to the current one.
Put yourself in edit mode. Put yourself in edit mode. Go to the pencil. So only us have edit, public doesn't have editing. They can make comments.
Then
at the
it was
bottom,
spelled.
but they don't-
Yeah, the designees and the spell like
So
that.
now you can see what
Office.
people have commented.
I'm not clear. Is the blue highlighted area an addition or it's an addition?
So anything that has a line through it is gonna be
Take
something
it
they
out.
actually want to get rid of. Anything that's highlighted, they want to add in.
Okay, so
And
you
the only reason there were different colors for
Different
the
people.
additional is because it's either different people or different times that it's being brought in. So that's why they've got
So,
different colors.
Basically, it doesn't matter what color it is. If it's struck, it's gone.
Correct,
I don't care whether it's red or yellow.
correct.
Right.
Yeah,
Green or blue is an addition.
either. It just means different people. Hannah, myself, and
Well, maybe
I
we just better just stick with one color.
we can't, it won't let us.
That's
Because anytime there's a different user,
Well, I guess you're just gonna have to get one.
there's only 3 colors.
So the colors just mean the person who edited it. And so basically what we can figure on, if it's struck, it's gone. If it's added in there regardless of the color, it's there.
Yeah.
Same thing with the struck.
Correct, as long as something is.
Okay.
Or to clarify too, like if you look down by the,
Where's the miss?
there was that designee right above it.
It says designated on it.
Yeah.
Well, then I got one down here that says superintendent or designee shall notify the student parent guardians. Number 1, this is off. OE office, OE office.
Now, do you make your comments?
On mine.
Save it.
Oh.
And then refresh it. And then you can go
Yeah, there's 2 things happening, like I'm trying to pay attention to the content, and then having Tana help me with,
So now another question.
Yeah.
You look here, partway down where it says college or post-secondary education requirements or military recruitments. And then you've got 2, 3, 4, 5 that are struck with no color. Is that,
strike out.
that's just gonna be a strikeout period, isn't it? Okay.
Click on
I didn't know why, I mean, they were. I was thinking of any surveys that St. Mary's does. I only know of one survey that we do. It's the annual survey to ask kids, student engagement questions about belonging and respect, and it ties to goal 3. That's the only survey I can think of that St. Mary's does. So all of that didn't seem necessary. It was in our old policy. I mean, you can put it back in.
Is this MS-DOS? How do you spell that? I don't know.
So we're all right with moving forward with what's in place?
Well, I'm looking at why would you eliminate like curriculum and instructional materials used by elementary schools? Why would you not want to
No, it's,
make that available?
no, it is available. It's about are we surveying kids for that information? I mean, we can leave it in there. It was in there.
So this part's under the survey. And so if you scroll down, that's what you're doing. Cause
Not that far.
Well, this is just the first reading anyway, so take some comments and
Yeah, let me know if you want that back in. It was in the old one.
I think anything that any sort of information other than the bare minimum shouldn't be requested from the kids. And striking whatever their interests are, their, books, that sort of stuff, I think is reasonable. It's of no use to anything beyond.
I didn't think so either. Teachers would ask.
Yeah.
And then I didn't know, even consider striking student recognition programs. I couldn't not think of one when we surveyed. I left college and post-secondary because, in military recruitment, because when high school takes the state exam, it lets them click up, share their results if they want with military recruitment college places. So I left that in. So potentially we would strike out number 6.
What would be, I mean, aren't some of these things used to enhance an application for enrollment into college or university?
So number 1 identifies leaving that type of thing open. But the things like book clubs, whatever, magazines of students checked out of the library, a lot of that stuff is it's not really information that anybody else would need.
right, if they didn't turn in things.
If anything, the scanner would use something like that to get some kids' interest and then use it for identity theft purposes or
Right.
whatever else.
And if other surveys came forward, that the school district might be interested in, we would just communicate, follow the policy when we ask for permission.
Keep some great.
From parents and guardians.
Yeah, I don't. Student recognition programs.
Like across it all, I think,
I think what the benefit of that would be.
Like
well, and then I was thinking
NHS.
about scholarships though.
Yeah, NHS, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, but that's part of it.
That's what I was thinking,
Yeah.
about for scholarships, it would be
Yeah.
relevant.
But not like your paw, panther, buck.
No.
That's still the 21's 40.
What number in
Number
that order
6.
though?
Number 6.
I had it open and I shut it down. I'll put it back.
So we're good?
I'm good with it.
Okay. Move on to board policy 60301,
2240, class size.
Twenty-two forty. Hold on.
Well, it's not copyrighted, is it?
Mm-mm.
It's not, yeah,
Class size.
jumped application.
Class size?
What went on the way down? Okay, there it is. Go back.
This is another short one, really straightforward, almost identical to ours. I added some legal reference in there about class size, I think that's all.
IDAPA 80202.
Mm-hmm, which is, just Idaho, administrative regulations, where they speak to class size.
22.
And then in the legal reference, but you have Idaho statute, which talks about class size.
Commercial 2140.
What is the statute on class?
I'll go into it more in open enrollment.
Okay.
However, it just basically in statute, what it says, so these policies that we're looking at are the ones where statute or federal law will mention policy. So what they're doing is statute will, give the law legal requirements. Then it's handing some local control over, because it'll say, now refer to your district policy where we outline procedures. So like for class size, we get a set the class size, there's recommendations, and then we report teacher-student ratio to the state. And so enrollment will be taken more. And I was trying to think another one's a good example. Well, open enrollment's another good example, when we get to that one. Right, class size.
So we're good with the
Thank you.
additions on that? Okay. Move forward to board policy 60211 2335. Digital citizenship and safety education.
I'll get there in a second. Again, it's very similar to the policy we have. There's a good example of me inserting our policy name into that policy. I don't know why the legal reference was. Look out. Oh, there it is, Josh. In the comments, the size that the state recommends, 20 for kindergarten,
Oh, nice.
20 for 1, 2, 3, 26 for 4, 5, 6, and the middle school caseload of 160.
Sean, you did that?
When you're
Oh, you
in,
did in the comment?
yeah, so if you, let me, hold on, so you guys can see it. You guys can see it too. When you're on the gray bar, it'll say, there's a cursor you can toggle on comments where it's below, or you can see all comments.
That's what I was looking for. Track
Here it
changes
is.
in Word, you can see all the.
See the comments right here? So by default, it's off, but if I click on it, toggle
There
on
we
it,
go.
boom, they all appear.
Now I know where we're at.
There,
Whole different format than what I'm used to as far as track changes, but that. okay.
Yes.
there's comments. So you got track changes and we got
Yeah, me too, totally different.
Dawson.
Yeah.
So I think, K1-2 might go a little bit over that, but all the other grade levels were well within that recommendation. Right, K1-2 can sometimes a little bit more than that.
So are we good with 2335?
I'm behind, sorry.
Well, go on, hurry up. One by the hour.
Remember, I can afford you by the hour.
So you have a comment in here, do we want to reference 50207?
Yeah, we do.
I was gonna say,
So this was early on when I was out, I didn't understand how to follow this process yet, because it was mentioning their new numbering system. And I was like, asking ISB, don't we need to mention our current numbering system until, so, yeah, the answer is yes. So I need to put that back in.
So now we're moving on to
But
23,
then-
34.
Hold on, I gotta change, digital,
Oh, yeah.
we're still in digital citizenship.
23, 34.
Yes, yes. Yeah, so we do want a reference. Oh, right,
The
yep,
green is back in though, right? Quarterly comment,
I did orderly conduct, but I didn't list the number.
policy number.
Good call. So Paul, Ted,
Yes,
here's an example on the digital citizenship.
yeah,
Inside that policy, or inside the content of that policy, I referenced one of our old policy numbers, 502,
Mhm.
until we have a chance to review and the board adopts the new number for orderly conduct. So in the meantime, I've kept our old numbering system for orderly conduct. Now, if you go to our website, under policies, you would be able to see that policy.
under 502.07.
Correct.
Okay, now when this is revised, then until the policy,
That'll be a few
then
years.
in the review of this policy in 5 years or 2 years, whenever, then it'll display a different
Correct.
cross-reference.
Correct. It'll still be orderly conduct, it'll have a new policy number, correct. Good on those?
Good.
Very similar to the one we have.
2340?
And we're still cleaning up the editing and formatting. Which, if we have your blessing from content, that's a little easier to work on. Right? It takes less brain power.
Random stuff here.
Okay, now we're on to, so this one, the board in July and August just revised, amended, adopted. It's current. The only changes are the number, and then we found a few grammar changes, like children to students.
I can't see, what number is she on?
2340.
But it was just reviewed this summer.
Yeah, this one confused me when I was looking at it, because everything's
It's brand, so,
striped, but then it's almost verbatim.
exactly. So what happened was, yeah,
Okay, my notes didn't get saved, so I'm gonna have to bring them up.
this is it was reviewed and adopted this summer.
Oh, no, I did, they're just different. I know. But, okay. Where's the little, I was looking at it, and it was different. Every way you look at these, it comes up in a little bit different format. This is gonna take me to get through.
It does take a
No,
little,
I'm just-
believe me.
yes. I'm taking from yes,
Okay.
April, May,
as you can see.
Oh, yeah, you should.
Do we have anything in the first part of this policy that anybody wants to talk about? Because my issues are after the section that says to this end.
How far down are you?
Halfway down. So the first half, you want to talk about anything there?
July 2023. There's your comments are right here, Beth.
We're on 2340.
Yeah, they're
am I
there.
correct?
It just looks different than the last time I saw them.
Got it.
Okay, so, do you just want me to jump in? So the, okay, teachers shall be free to choose supplemental materials. So, since the last time we talked about that,
Yeah, that's
last
true.
year, we introduced a library policy that defined teacher libraries or supplemental curriculums or different things like that. So do we want to reference that library policy as a definition for extracurricular or supplemental curriculum?
That's a good point. We did change that after.
Yeah,
Where? I'm gonna find your comment again.
it's right in the, to this end, and it's under number one.
Under one.
Teachers shall be free to choose supplemental materials. And I just had the question in there about referring to the library policy as a guide.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to word that in there, just wanted to bring that up.
So, in line with that,
No, that number one. There's three number one. Got it. Yes.
I think it would probably be worth trying to wordsmith in there something that aligns with the values of the district as well.
Mm-hmm.
That does get referenced up earlier.
Under
And
one.
this is greens.
Um,
At the top. I'm gonna write this.
where was it? The teachers. Okay, it's as a consequence of the responsibility to guarantee academic freedom for both students and teachers, the Board of Trustees expects that. And then all of those, that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is giving definition to how the teacher is to approach. So-
Number 2, district philosophy of education. Number 3, community standards. That we're looking at.
Well, she was the next one up, wasn't it? The first four.
Up in the top,
Politics, science, health, sex, values, and ethics.
where are we? The board recognizes the need for teachers to have the freedom to discuss, teach subjects and the controversial subjects. Such subjects and issues may include but are not necessarily limited to. Those are the topics. And then shall guide discussions and procedures and thoroughness. There was one particular, I'm reading this today. The Board of Trustees also believes that academic freedoms carry with it the responsibility that is shaped by the basic ideals, goals, institutions of the local community. These standards are expressed via the goals and objectives of the adopted curriculum, by the adopted textbooks, by board policy, and by district mission statement.
So that's already in there.
Referring, back to the relative maturity of students, district philosophy of education, community standards, morals and values, the necessity of balanced presentation, and the necessity of seeking prior administrative counsel and guidance in such matters. So that ties, does that, I got that.
So is the supplemental curriculum going to be,
Vetted?
yes, like vetted by the principal or the superintendent before it is given to the students?
It's not stated that way.
Or is there are they just pulling from?
Are they just allowed to do whatever they want on?
Well, that's why I
when-
brought up the idea of tying in the library policy, because when this was
Right.
last reviewed, we didn't even have a library policy,
Well, I
and
guess
now
that's
we
what
have an
I'm
extensive one.
asking is there a
Right.
number on that library policy that specifically says it has to be previewed before they can give it to the kids?
Approved. So that can all be worked into this definition of
Okay.
extra or supplemental curriculum. Does that make sense?
You just list the three policies, the three library policies, which talk about how to, select, how to review, how to reconsider if it's challenged. So include those in there.
Yeah,
And then for
because,
some of our
yeah,
homework from the first reading to the second reading, is we can go back and read those.
and in that, I mean, this really causes a daisy chain, because Idaho has now put into law a new library policy from the state. Ours is almost identical to what the law is, but we need to dot our i's and cross our t's on that. So maybe this all happens at the same time. But that policy that we implemented, I reviewed with the law, and they're pretty close. There's not a lot of legwork we have to do. So we were ahead of the game on that one.
So Beth, I'm not really familiar with the library policy that you guys implemented. But like, all right, if it's put into here, does it look like just whatever approved resources is what they're gonna get to pull from? Or does it look like
No, it's like a definition. It's a guide for
Okay.
what is.
what's okay and what's not? That's good, that's more of a blanket that covers, because I know a lot of teachers will pull from like teachers pay teachers.
Right. And that can all be worked through this, because I didn't read the library policy again today, but, again, it's like, it has to coordinate with the
It
law
can't be
too.
harmful or obscene.
So- The harmful to, we know that definition. I
right,
don't
right.
ever want to read that out in public again.
And age appropriate.
Harmful to minors definition, and then it gives a whole guidance, kind of like these step of, a guide of principles to go by, and what it has to meet.
And what
And
our
so-
district values
Uh-huh.
are. Yeah.
Yep, so if you go back through that, it will give a guide, and teachers should be following that for their own personal libraries in their classrooms too. That all has to meet that same thing. So if they're already in that mode of thinking and they get familiar with that guide and that format, it's gonna become easier.
I think that needs to be really brought home to all the staff, so they're really familiar with that, so they don't get themselves in trouble.
Yeah, because it's not only just our policy, it's also now state law.
Yeah.
So it's both. And so tying it into this also kind of brings all of them together.
Because all the teachers I know, I don't think any of the things that they bring to our kids is ever ill-intended, but I do think that there could be some things that are misconstrued by parents, and I just
Well,
would
that's,
hate for them to get in trouble.
well, that's what's great about the library policies. There's 3 of them. And so when there are any questions, there's a format of petition that's really quite non-confrontational.
Challenge.
It's a challenge thing that's like just black and white. It's non-confrontational.
Yeah.
It's like, let's just look into these things and clarify them. So since we are living in a new world of definition here, district-wise and state-wise, yeah, you make a lot of really good points.
And below 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of helps too. Adding restrictions and, principal approval, purchasable material,
Where are you
notify
looking?
families. Where you were, like 1, 2, 3, and 4, all just go a little bit deeper.
Oh, in under the, as a consequence of the responsibilities? That 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
Supplemental materials, that was number 1. Number 1 was teacher can be free to choose supplemental materials.
Oh, okay.
And then
Right.
speak to the 3 library policies, and then 2 also speaks to kids being excused,
Oh,
getting
right.
approval by the principal if we think it's all
Correct.
controversial,
If there's
notifying families,
Religious and moral value conflict.
foster the board.
Teachers shall notify parents and guardians when especially controversial issues may be discussed, and they may have their students excused for family, religious, or moral values to dictate. I mean, these things don't come up all the time in our classrooms. They're really very rare. And in most cases, they're probably more of a religious conflict, like with Jehovah's Witness type things with birthdays or Christmas or things like that. So those are the things that I ever ran into. And we just aren't going to run into a lot of these things, but they have to be in our policies because we don't want to go down that slippery slope. I don't
just
want to
think,
create
like,
that.
Dr. Seuss's birthday, there's, some of the older Dr. Seuss books that people find offense or, that sort of thing. That some teachers, they just have the whole, a whole Dr. Seuss collection and,
And, if someone has a problem with it, there is a method for approaching it, and it will be dealt with.
Yeah.
Or it will be,
Right.
like, I'm sorry.
that's the
that
sort of thing that I'm
just
just
isn't.
saying, like, I don't want teachers to get in trouble.
Just because one parent has a problem doesn't mean it's gonna get pitched, I mean, and a teacher isn't gonna get in trouble because one parent has a problem with it. There's a method by which, and there's a committee that will address the issue if it, needs to go that far. It's very detailed, so pull up the library policy ones.
Okay.
And read them, and I think it'll answer a lot of your questions. Jenny, do you have a question?
So the only other question is there a timeline that the teachers need to have anything like that, submitted prior to using it? Because I know that parents are supposed to be able to have access to curriculum, lesson plans, and anything supplemental before it is given to the kids.
I don't have an answer to that.
I think I read something that gives a timeline of,
Do we have it?
this is the speaker, they need to be vetted or something like that, and they have to get back to us in a certain amount of time. I thought I read that.
I think
That's
that's
for
probably just
speakers,
for
that's
the
not for
speakers, but like for
Right.
supplemental stuff, even
Yeah,
if it isn't just a movie, which I feel like, especially at the high school level,
Sometimes it's
they're really good about
worksheets
sending that stuff home. But different supplemental stuff, by law, parents are supposed to be able to have access to that. So it may behoove the district to have that in place as a safety measure to say, have it done however many days before you want to use it so that it can be, that law can be followed.
Never seen anything on
Even if it's uploaded on Google Classroom.
Curriculum books, anything
That would
like
be
that.
ideal.
Yeah.
The ones I've read, like a reasonable time frame, depending on, not a clear 3 to 5 day, but I've seen reasonable time frames that families would be notified or permission slips signed, or alternative, assignments of, or if a parent wanted to exclude their child from that. So, I mean, I think we can keep searching for some of those policies between this month and the next month. What I recall reading when we looked at different curriculum or supplemental curriculum or books or movies or something that might be controversial, including a speaker, was it'd be reasonable time that parents would be notified.
Okay, so then, any more questions? I'm gonna move on to another number that I have. Okay, number 4. This one's a biggie. The Board of Trustees directs that a philosophy of abstinence shall be part of an underlying principle in all sex education instruction. However, it is recognized that this alone may not prevent pregnancies and sexual transmitted disease. So these are just statements, they're just topics for discussion. So abstinence does prevent pregnancy and STDs 100% when practiced. Please, let's think about rewording if we are going to discuss other less effective methods of birth control and STD prevention. I don't like the way that it's worded in here. However, it is recognized that this alone may not prevent pregnancies and sexually transmitted diseases. Well, it does when it's practiced. If you abstain, you will not get an STD, you will not get pregnant. So If we want to include other methods of birth control and STD prevention, we need to reword that.
I thought it was kind of worded weird also.
Because it does work 100% of the time.
We
You
said
stay
yeah.
and you don't get
We were
it.
talking about this the other day, it's like, it does work, but
work.
you teach them, but they're probably not gonna follow it, so they're adding in more, I think is what they're getting at.
And actually, it's been shown that birth control methods are actually less effective because they aren't used. So if you teach someone to be sexually active, the likelihood that they will use that birth control method 100% of the time in its most accurate form is very unlikely for it to happen. And it is actually much more likely that an STD or a pregnancy will occur when teaching to use birth control because it won't get used properly
Mhm.
in the heat of the moment in the backseat of the car when you're 15.
Let me ask, I don't see anywhere where it says what grades might be approached with this.
Earlier in the policy, it talks about relative maturity of students. So the age appropriateness is addressed, and those things are not talked about at just any level. They're discussed with an age.
Without a
appropriate.
definition and a defined time frame, I personally have seen where third graders are taught about anal sex in the public school system. Now, is that what we're gonna bring here? I mean, because the door is open.
No, absolutely not.
Well, the door's open without
Yeah.
a rebuttal to that.
It doesn't say, and even with
I
like
mean,
our kids, we're like,
appropriate,
when,
who
when
determines
is this
the
gonna come out for the
appropriate
kids to learn about?
of their
That's a
age?
question we have also.
And you give that up here to any other entity.
So the
Where-
fix would just be to put an age in the
We
policy.
can put in
And which
age.
grade?
What grade does Dr. Grant, what grade age do they get sexual education?
Yeah, I'm looking at different policies, so I think some of your questions are answered in another policy that's very specific. I'm just looking for that really fast, because it's fifth grade is growth development, seventh grade is,
So then that could be a
Development.
reference that's in this or something?
yeah, that's what I was looking for that, because I know we looked at that last summer, and it was more defined.
Yeah, I don't believe we have any topics that are discussed under fifth grade at this
Well,
point.
fifth grade and its growth development, permission slip went out, parents could review the topic, like puberty.
It's the puberty talk.
And then seventh grade was the other one.
I have 7 kids, I didn't get that talk.
I never got that.
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm like, somehow my sister got it like 7 times and I got it nothing. And none of it ever is any good anyways, so.
So, just a comment, being that the title of this is controversial top issues in academic, right, freedom. In this, so your comment, which I agree with 100%, I'm just wondering, why is it gonna log me out 9 minutes and 50, why is it?
Mine's doing the same thing.
Just continue, just say when it continues.
Sorry.
Breathe.
The topic rate,
Okay,
so like in this, with your comment here, like I said, I agree with. But when there's no choice involved.
Right.
I'm just wondering if that last comment, however, it is recognized that this law may not, if that might have been some sort of reference to
where are we?
unwanted.
Hold on.
Number 4.
Number 4, which part of it, wait, I didn't get to the second, the latter part of that yet, but just the abstinence part?
Yeah,
Okay, well, you're not
Second
gonna,
case of
nobody's gonna be
rape.
using birth control during a rape.
well, right, no,
Well, that's what he's saying, because it says you could avoid STDs and
you can do everything right,
Pregnancy.
and then
from his
have a
abstaining.
crime
It is
committed
this
on
summer.
a family.
Okay, well, then we need to be specific about that and say,
Parental rights.
some refer to that in there, but that sentence where it says, however, it is recognized that this alone may not prevent pregnancies and sexually transmitted disease, that's very vague and very confusing. If we're talking about rape, then let's just talk about it. rape, incest, abuse.
Yeah.
If we want to talk about that, then let's be clear. But that sentence is not clear, and it's just, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what it's saying.
I wonder, though, like
take
you
it out.
said, abstaining does prevent those things, but then adding except in the case of.
Right, and except in the case of a crime.
Right.
Or, unwanted sexual abuse
Mhm.
of some sort. Did you have a question? Oh, I thought you had your hand up. Nope. Oh, sorry. I thought you were like this, and I was like, okay.
I would stand up.
Okay.
Were you able to find that policy?
And now I'm searching, it might have to be I might have to make a note of it. I remember we looked at it this summer, because it had almost that identical language, and I was just talking to Tana, it had a weird title that you wouldn't think. So it might be, I've just made notes, well, we have Beth Howerson's notes, and then I just made notes to try to find those policies between reading 1 and reading 2,
Okay.
knowing we want to change the language.
Sure.
Or add some specificity if it's not in the other policy, or refer to the other policy that has the specifics.
Okay, so I'm gonna bring up something else. So I was a client advocate at Blues Care Network for 5 years, and they have a branch of their clinic that is an educational branch that goes out to schools. They're currently in Deary, Potlatch, what's the town? Genesee, and three other schools. They expanded into a couple more this year. They have a curriculum that is federally approved, that is abstinence-based. When I was down there, I was talking to them about the possibility of coming up here, and we're too far for them to come here. There are curriculums that are abstinence-based, and the time doesn't allow for it tonight for me to go into it all, but there's a lot about sex in the brain, about our emotional connection, how our hormones and our neurotransmitters and how it creates a pathway of thinking in a young mind. And it also dovetails with our talks that we have with kids about smoking. It's the same type of thing. Mm-hmm. And there are options out there for other curriculum other than what we've been using.
At what age would you see appropriate for that introduction?
Those education methods that Blues Care Network uses at those public schools is 8th grade and 10th grade. So they do a fall class. They go in, and I think it's like 2 weeks that they do the class, and then in the spring they do a class, and then in 10th grade they do it again. And I think it's a little bit more advanced in 10th grade, kind of dovetailing off what they had started in 8th grade and then brought into 10th grade. So, I mean, if we want to look into something on that level, we can. I don't know to what there's training that's involved. It's, I can bring their educator here and meet with us, and we can have a meeting sometime. I know he will come up here. I know he would, in a heartbeat. He would come talk to us.
So it
Definitely worth looking into.
needs to be at the middle school level for sure. There's
Oh,
a
for
lot of-
sure. It has
Yeah.
to start. It has to start there. So that's what they have been doing is 8th grade and 10th grade. I don't know if things are changing. I mean, I think the average exposure to pornography is now 8 years old.
Mhm.
And
Well, the minute they get a phone.
and cell phone policy is something we have to really address hard. But,
Well, regardless of whether or not they're being active, they're talking about being active or even, saying that they are, just to be up and up.
right. But to learn the consequences and to learn actually how the human body works and how hormones and neurotransmitters actually affect your brain, it's amazing. I mean, I think I learned more than I ever educated anybody else being there for 5 years. And
I talked to so many women. I was like, well, what do you remember from your high school education, sex education? And they're like, nothing about how my body really worked. I would
But
have
don't we all
liked to
just,
have
like,
really known how
Don't
it
you all
really
just
did.
blank it out, like you just are trying to just survive
Disassociate.
that class, like, here we are.
But some of
Is
it,
it over
it's
yet?
actually, the weird thing is when you start talking about it in like really black and white terms like that, it becomes interesting. All
Sure.
of a sudden, it's like, oh, really? It does?
Mhm.
Huh? And it's kind of interesting to see the feedback from the kids and feedback from parents. And I mean, we can start looking at feedback from those schools. They've been there for years now. In our local region has been utilizing these, and they are federally approved curriculum.
Sounds good.
So
Dr.
that's
Wrench
food
might
for
be able to
thought.
verify this, but what you talk about is introduced in California in the third grade.
Oof.
And that's,
And
so we have to be careful at the time frame for introduction of such things. But that literally, just the neural, that's all discussed.
Well, because our
It has for
pathways of our brain are being formed, and that recreates a desire, and the whole dopamine dump and the serotonin and all of that, and it keeps repeating itself and creating an appetite for it. And that's why we have to try to protect our children. But we live in a really messed up world, and so these things are happening, and to understand that.
It's happening younger and younger, but I would not want to introduce it to third grade. I just think
No, that's
Eighth and 10th or
Eighth
something
and
like
10th,
that. Yeah.
eighth
But it
and
has to be
10th. Eighth and
specified
10th
in
is
that
Correct.
yes.
kind of-
I do wonder though, like for those.
So
kids
we're
who have been-
protecting our curriculum, and we're protecting our library content. We're protecting our, the things that we talk about against those things deemed harmful to minors. And we're trying to do our part to protect their innocence.
Mhm.
And then at a time, giving them the tools to protect themselves.
Right. I do wonder though, with like younger kids who have been exposed to these things that it's been brought to the school that we're aware of, and then they're getting counseling, if that kind of stuff if they can get that sort of curriculum for them there.
That would be up to the parents. You'd
That
have to
would
bring it
be-
to them.
That is. And because it's interesting stuff.
I think giving it
So-
an option to the parent
Right.
where, yeah.
Right.
If a child has been in an abuse situation where they've been exposed to it. So further down, it says, therefore, the Board of Trustees allows for instruction in sex education, including AIDS awareness, sexually transmitted diseases, birth control, general human sexuality. In all cases, the known facts will be taught, not the opinions or moral judgment of the teacher. This does not preclude giving impartial viewpoints on both sides of the issues, such as the right to an abortion. So, to that point, I would like to see that also reworded. Abortion is not a right, it's a choice. And currently, very currently, the Supreme Court ruled today and upheld Idaho's abortion ban. And so it is currently, since we had reviewed this last summer, it's illegal in Idaho for procurement and performing elective abortion. Title 18, Crimes and Punishment, Chapter 6, Abortion and Contraception's Defense of Life Act, except as provided in subsection 2 of this section. Every person who performs and attempts to perform an abortion is defined in this chapter commits the crime of criminal abortion. So
So do you have those
Does that go
comments?
with your?
Yeah, I think that should be in there also.
we cannot talk about abortion, number one, as being a right.
Mhm.
And we cannot talk about abortion as being an option, because in the state of Idaho, upheld by the U.S. Supreme Court today, it is illegal.
Correct.
So we need to update that.
Good job.
We got all the notes on that?
Yep.
Okay.
Almost.
As you can tell, this is something near and dear to my heart.
Mhm.
I've put many, many years and hours into.
Move forward to board policy 60311. 2345, speakers in the classroom and school functions. Seeing no changes, or
Kind of,
2345.
Speakers in the classroom.
yeah, that one, let's see.
The P1.
Well, that one,
Was pretty short, pretty straightforward, same as ours, revisited last 2012. I think the main change was, some grammar, words, and the title, I mean, the number.
Okay. So, good there. Let's see, moving on to board policy 60204 2400, special education.
Sorry.
Huh?
You're correct.
What's the difference in the 2345 P1 and the non-P1?
So the P1s or E1s, those are forms. Like, if it was,
Keys and procedures, aren't they?
I thought they were the exhibits, like the forms, like if it was you're gonna opt out, then the form is attached. The P2345 P1 would be to opt out of sex ed,
Okay.
for example. I know.
With our policies, they were included, original policies, they were included in the policy itself. These are extra
Okay.
numbers.
so where are we at right now?
That's.
2400.
What are we?
2400.
Special education.
It was, recently reviewed in 2023. Staying fluid with special education law, and so it's almost identical. We refer to the special ed manual, and there was a teeny bit of language that was updated per our coordinator of special ed, Jen Miller. And then it's pretty straightforward.
Good. Hearing, seeing none, we'll move forward. Board policy 501, 2014, 2705, military compact waiver.
Again, it's almost identical to our current one with the number change. And last visited in 2014. What we added was the immunization waiver as an option. And it's in that one.
Students can exempt from ammunition, all ammunition.
Military contract waiver, is that where we're at?
Yeah.
Military.
2705.
Right, 24, 24. Right, that's their original. Yeah, right. There we go. All right, I'm on to a P1 again.
No, it's just the, yeah, that and
The
what policy number are we on now?
2705.
So,
That's the
military waiver.
military compact.
It's almost identical to the current one we have, and with the help of the committee and the audience, we added the immunization kit. There's the exemption options, and so we mentioned Idaho code and our board policy on immunization exemption.
Ted, did you have something on the special education? Because we went kind of fast over that.
yeah, I'll be honest with you, I'm behind. This is moving a little quicker than I am.
So military is something I'm completely, it's a different world for me. So, am I correct in assuming that a lot of this is the same from state to state?
Yeah.
Because
Federal.
Yeah,
it's just a federal policy because
It's giving a lot of grace and permissions to
Right.
kids of military families, yes.
to keep them moving
Let 'em-
forward.
Yeah, let them know wherever they're coming from.
Right.
Let them enter.
Yeah, if they get bounced around so they don't, you're too far behind them.
Let them enter.
So a lot of this really isn't
Let 'em
something
transfer
that
it.
we're gonna
All we added was,
customize all that much.
yeah, the customization piece, well, this is almost identical to our current policy on military compacts. We added the immunization exemption.
Okay.
That was not in there, so that was all that customizable. It's in there.
Okay.
And we referenced our board policy on immunization exemption and Idaho code. All right, the committee, the policy committee, review committee, and Jenny Darnold caught that.
I see the highlight for students cannot be exempt from all immunizations as outlined in
Can,
exemption.
No, it says they can.
can be,
Excuse me.
can.
Okay. Does that only hold true for military? I mean,
No.
what about, okay, so
You'll
then
see it in another policy. It holds true for any
any
student.
student, so somebody from Venezuela who happens to be in town and enrolls, they don't have to have immunization, typhoid, whatever,
They have the exemption.
what are the rubella, the standard stuff we all get
Oh, right.
as young people.
Well, it follows,
Not
not
even-
anymore. That's not what's happening. And so that's why this is added into this policy is because it's coming from other policies in our district.
The immunization.
Students cannot be exempted from all immunizations as outlined.
Because the state of Idaho allows exemptions, the school is putting it into all the policies that reference exemptions. They're referencing that Idaho state code that says you can be exempt, fill out the form.
Anytime the student enrolls. We have it in another policy I think we're looking at tonight about enrollment.
All right, we'll move forward here to, board policy 50107, 3000, entrance placement and transfer.
Again, you're gonna notice it's very similar to our current policy. We made some formatting changes, and whenever it referenced policy, we referenced our policy numbers. Yeah, we formatted like numbering. If it was gonna say 6, it'd say 6. If we're gonna write out the word 6, then we write out the word 6. The section on placement is identical, just moved it to a different part of the content, the policy. We inserted our current policy number on open enrollment instead of the new numbering system. Under initial enrollment, you'll see that immunization or exemptions has been added there again. And everything else should be pretty similar to our current policy on transfers and enrollment.
Did that gender issue that went in front of the judge in the court, is that still in court?
The bathroom, the phones, yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there was a, since it's still in court, it's irrelevant, but
Title IX
yeah.
injunction. Things on hold there.
We're allowed to act as if it is.
If we have.
We're acting as if.
Based on our practices and policies.
Yes.
Yes. St. Mary's, yes.
And Ted, just to keep in mind, this is just the first reading. I mean,
Yeah.
There's more to come later on, so.
Yeah,
I mean, don't feel like you're.
I'm getting overwhelmed, so I'm just kind of, I can't see.
You're not alone.
I'm working with it. Yeah, I kind of
You're not
figured
alone.
that's
You're not alone.
And I can't tell you how many times I've read these policies in the last 4 months, and there's still questions and confusion. And changes to be made. That's what's nice about all the different eyes, people have different focus areas and different expertise to bring, to make the policy complete.
So,
That's all right, I reviewed the policy today that I submitted. I duplicated the same paragraph twice.
I know.
Awesome.
Thank you, Josh. Those were emphasis.
Yeah.
You were emphasizing that
Super
point.
important.
And this is so important.
Yeah.
Your boss put it in 3 times.
so we're gonna move on. All right, board policy 50109, 3010, open enrollment.
This was a policy recently implemented in 2022. Mass law to allow open enrollment. So changes you're gonna see. You're not gonna see a lot of changes. What changes you are gonna see is that we went ahead and added our capacity numbers per school. If we want that in the policy.
Not per classroom.
No capacity, open enrollment is per grade level, per school, you'll see.
Per grade level.
Per grade level. The table will show per grade level, per school, including,
Okay. I didn't scroll down far enough, I'm sorry. My
No, you're fine.
apologies.
and including special ed program.
Okay.
I'm curious, why is the state form being omitted?
Because district uses their own form instead of a state form. It's not being omitted, it was I see in the policy, it was an either or. Do we use the state
Yes.
form or does the district have a form? The district has a form for open enrollment.
What is the significance of the dates, March and February?
Mm-hmm.
Just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
Changes there, is that,
The significance is just to get a sense of, that's when we start doing budget, to get a sense of what students from out of district are going to return as we start projecting our numbers. And then building classrooms, assigning teachers, support staff. Do we have enough room in the buildings? What's based on those projections, start anticipating our budget, our income, that's fair. All those reasons.
okay, all these with upriver,
Mhm,
kindergarten, first grade and so on, all those numbers,
mhm.
is that in the current policy or is this an addition?
It's in the current policy. Well, actually, I'm sorry. It's outside of the current policy. We haven't listed those numbers. We just didn't have it written in the policy. So it's an add-on.
Would those be changing from year to year with
They haven't changed in the last couple of years.
That you
How in,
They
They
can,
could.
say,
because.
is this in rock as far as?
No.
You know?
Even if it's I know that's an option for the board to discuss.
No.
Do we want to leave it out of the policy? Because it could change, or leave it in policy to win one spot, and then if the numbers did change, if our capacity did change for some reason, then we'd go back and relook at the
Yeah, that's
policy.
almost a guarantee, I'm sure. I mean,
Well,
student attendance-
capacity limits are, I mean, unless you're adding on to a new building and suddenly being gifted a new amount of teachers and support
So
staff.
what you've got here are the capacity.
Those are the
limits.
capacity limits.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, those are you're right, attendance will change, enrollment, those are the capacity limits.
okay.
But that's where we shut down with the enrollment.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good there. Rolling on to, policy 50109 3030, dual enrollment.
Oh, look at that formatting, Miss Wicks. On 3010, those tables were.
Oh, yes.
Nice job. I was like, I can't do this.
I can't do it. I
Can
don't.
you help me? I'll do the content.
You did it
Oh, I
already.
can see that stuff. You know how to do that
That's
stuff.
what I tell Brooke.
I'm learning.
I'll write it, you make it look good.
You make it look good.
Yeah, you do.
I got the meat in there.
She's working on a PowerPoint for me because she won't let me do
Right there.
PowerPoints anymore.
I love that PowerPoint.
It's like every single one of your slides is a different font, or
Oh,
a different
yep.
size, and I'm like, it all looks the same to me.
Just put it together.
Oh, man, when you stand in front of teachers X number of years, and they point out
Oh, yeah.
every little.
Oh, yeah.
Just
I
pull
got
the
pretty
gloves
good at-
off,
I
say,
got
here you
pretty
go,
good
you
at
can do any better.
PowerPoints.
Yeah. It's like, you're gonna stand up and present this in 300 people. It doesn't look,
And they're gonna,
I can't.
That's why that wasn't making any sense.
We have 30.
30, oh, we had 30.
30.
Oh, whoops. I clicked on the wrong one too.
Changed.
I've got a question. I see a highlight at the IDEA/ADA, and it's got highlighted there, or guardians. Is that to be eliminated or added?
Added parents or guardians. It's at the top, parents or guardians, and at the bottom, it only said parents. So I know there was public comment. It's like, yeah, good point. We want to keep that consistent. The top says parents or guardians, so that last paragraph should also say parents or guardians. So it's an add-on, yes.
Thank you.
How come there's not preschool on here for Haber?
Mm. And now upriver. Those will probably be add-ons we need to include.
Well, is the preschool upriver considered us since it's Head Start?
Oh,
It's a
that's
federal
why.
program, not.
We back
on the
not-
previous one?
It's not the
It's a
same
federal
type of.
We back on the
preschool.
previous one?
That's why.
We move.
We
Doesn't
still
under
use
Hayburn say something about pre-K? In a line below it.
I thought it did too. I'm not on now, to go back.
Was that in the open enrollment policy?
Yeah. For
How does
capacity
that,
limit.
I mean, we still use our district staff.
But we can be reimbursed. This is what,
Is there
For-
any,
pardon?
is there an MOU in place for that program out there?
Yeah, right to
So I'm
that.
sure that it would entail whatever.
Yeah, we talked,
Memorandum of
Because it's a
understanding.
federal
Yeah.
program.
yeah.
It's not. a
It's typically
district.
16 to 17. There's some guidelines, like
Because you
16 to
have to have
17.
an agreement with them
Right.
in order to, all the particulars.
Right. Yeah. Like I know at Upriver with 16 to 17, 18 was the max. And you try to do the peer balance. And then based on staffing and square footage, we get reimbursed a certain amount.
So it does mention with asterisks,
Yeah,
Tana,
Below it.
special ed and preschool for Upriver, special ed and preschool for Hayburn.
with no numbers up.
12 for Upriver, 50 for Hayburn, and 25 for the middle school.
So
I don't know where that, we'll have to double check.
It was on the previous.
Oh,
On
well,
our-
so they did do a limit for, although that was 16 and 17 and upper. right?
So with it being a third party, we don't get to say the limit in the classroom for preschool?
Yeah, I think there's, we're part of that conversation because it becomes a memorandum of understanding. So there's lots of conversation with the principal, their directors, myself attended some, to kind of decide on square footage and then the number you can have, yeah.
Okay.
The in plus the number of staffing that we would be able to afford, if you will, yeah. There's some say in it, yeah.
Okay.
In terms of inserting it into policy, that's a good question. Do we?
I don't think if you can't abide by the number that we have in policy, then we probably don't want it in there.
Yeah, if it's a
Because
lot
if-
higher or change
yeah,
it to
say if there's
match what,
16
if we're going
that's in-
16, 17, then change this.
Yeah, because,
Correct.
so say a fire were to happen, right?
Yeah.
Something happened, we said our policy was 12, but there was 16.
Right.
Ouch.
Yeah.
No, there's definitely requirements like square footage for
Okay.
the number of students and adults that you have in a classroom.
Yes.
Yeah, so that might need to be edited. Yes.
We lose a lot of resources in preschool somehow, some way, miraculously.
Because they eat the crayons.
So,
Oh, this applies.
And they send Mrs. Soten in there, it's bad news.
Now, up river.
Maybe I ate.
The numbers that we have set in up river right now are far below capacity.
But
Either that or my
In the
kids were
event-
living,
so
my kids
though-
were going to school. and
But in the
really
event of a
dangerous
lawsuit
environment.
though, we have it identified as this number, even if the square footage said we could have.
But that's
whatever.
because of our teachers,
Small class size.
per grade.
Okay.
Because we have combo classes up there.
Okay.
We have one teacher utilizing two classes, or two grades.
We'll check preschool numbers with them right now.
So when you're looking at open enrollment and you're adding kids in a grade, you gotta think, how many kids is a teacher responsible for? It's not just a fire thing. It's not a capacity, a space capacity necessarily, it's both.
No, right, I understand that, but take any incident that were to occur in the event of a lawsuit, this would be formed that says by policy, this is our maximum number. We use. If we're over that, that's the technicality that we would get on that.
Well, hopefully we stay within, because that's gonna be maxing out our teacher. I mean, that's the purpose that we have that there for. So open enrollment, when somebody wants to come in, well, if we're at cap, sorry, you can't come.
Yeah.
And because our students that are here, that are residents, get first priority, we're not gonna compromise their education.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
The preschool numbers, I think, might be under where that discussion came up. Like it's 12, but I think we were housing 16 to 17 comfortably with the teacher and support staff and the square footage.
The
So
square footage is plenty big enough.
Yeah. Well,
2 classrooms, yeah, that's a lot of it.
And you both bring up a good point, like defining the filters, like what filters are we using to define capacity limits? The fire square footage and then
Staffing.
Thank you.
Exactly. Those are important pieces to the policy. Bless you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on.
I've got a question on graduation. Entertain me once again, Dr. The policy 2726,
Okay,
that's been stricken and I'm not sure, I don't know what it is.
well, it's graduation policy
Okay.
requirements, and then ours is added, because our policy is a different number. Which one are you in? I'll show you, it's like 605.
Okay, yeah, 605.05.
So those are the same policies,
Same
different
policy.
number,
Okay. Thank you.
until we update the numbering system for
Right.
graduation.
Okay. Thank you.
30-60? So we're
30-30.
Oh, we just finished.
Oh, I thought
We
we
did
were just
30-30.
in 30-30.
Did you? Well,
No,
you guys were back on 30-10 when I went to
Now we're
30-30.
back to 30-30 dual enrollment.
Right?
Okay.
Are we still on 30-30?
Yes,
Yes,
Okay.
we excite
Thirty,
conversation.
31.
no, 30-30.
30-30.
Stop.
Oh, what did
I had
everyone
all sorts
do
of good
here?
dad jokes from my board meeting this morning. It was great. Had to get them all fired up for a Monday.
This one uses the content from our dual enrollment policy, added our policy numbers inside the body of this policy.
So this is,
Still on 30-30?
yeah,
Yeah,
so this is dual enrollment.
part-time
Part-
attendance,
Okay, so
kids are yeah.
they're either in private school or homeschooled, and they're utilizing some activities at the school. This is not dual enrollment as in taking classes from NIC.
Correct.
Okay.
They could be enrolled in a couple classes. Like, we have students homeschool or private, and then might be enrolled for 2 class periods, like a PE or a CTE or an elective.
Choir
Sure.
or
The welding
wood shop welding,
and or to
or a higher
participate.
level math or
Mhm.
something like that.
Exactly. So it's very similar to our current policy. We just added, well, the number changed and then added our policies that reference policy inside the content, or inside the body.
Gotcha.
Could you put a minimum number of courses in there? So,
Minimum or maximum?
In order to get them
Minimum.
to be,
so the school district
To be
actually gets
included
paid
in
for
the
that kid
attendance.
being here for,
You do, if they're enrolled
3
for
hours or
1 or
what?
2, we do get paid for that.
if they're just 1 hour, you
Yes.
do.
You-
Oh.
We get 80.
Yeah,
We get-
there's a
There's a different, there's a formula.
When Danette was doing regular budget stuff, that brought some of that in.
does it differ like between 1 hour, one class and,
2 classes or 3 classes.
okay?
Then it's a hourly calculation for attendance and funding versus full-time student. Correct, Danette?
Correct.
See?
Well, that's good enough.
So we do get.
Okay, moving on. Board policy 501.12, 3060, McKinney-Vento, Homeless Assistant Act.
This one it's very similar to our current McKinney-Vento policy. It was updated in 2017. What was added was the immunization waiver. Anything else on that one? I tried to take notes. For me to be ready. Ted, man, we tried to get in a big enough TV so you could see it from far away. You should see the
That's why
size.
I can't even see it in my computer in front of me.
You should see the size of the bracket holding that TV up.
That's out there a ways. It's gotta be a good one.
It's swinging, yeah.
Good with that one?
Yep.
Okay, moving on to board policy 501.05, 3080, resident student tuition.
Okay, but the new title says non-resident student attendance.
Yeah, there's a slight change in the title.
It's not red.
No, it's you're not. Shame on us.
Is there a quicker way other than clicking like back and then having to find it again?
should
I
just
type
be
it
You just
in.
click
here.
forward.
I would just
Here.
use that arrow.
Oh, and that goes with that.
Yeah, go, and it doesn't, like, 30, 40 came up, or 30, 70 came
Just
up.
got, yeah, just gotta make sure you look, you're on the right number, because
Yeah.
one of them, I had to go through 2 or 3 of them to get
Yeah.
the right number.
Yeah, don't click that arrow, I made that mistake,
Which one?
up here,
Oh,
don't
yeah.
go up there.
I think I did that one too.
Those
and I had
things,
to go
yeah,
back
that
into it.
doesn't work.
So,
We can leave, it's a different number. We can leave our old title if we prefer. I don't know how to strike through, but did you figure out how to strike through the title?
I'll put that in your note, we'll move forward.
Why is it saying non-resident? I don't understand.
It just had the example policy had a different title.
That is kind of a weird
And I
term
think-
to use.
Resident is more clear.
Our title?
Yeah,
Okay.
because non-resident sounds like somebody outside of our district.
Or it sounds like the new term they use for illegal.
It's undocumented.
Illegal. But they're changing that
I'm-
undocumented thing too, to it, probably a
That, it changes every 3 months.
displaced.
Resident student tuition. I'm
something
gonna
or
make a
other.
note. So
They
we-
keep
Politically
changing it,
correct,
so you can't
that you don't have
ever,
to use.
you'll never be politically correct. They keep changing the word,
That's correct.
so you're always wrong. You're always wrong. You're wrong.
SD41.
Don't even try.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Good. Okay, moving on to board policy 50302, 3225, student organization. But the number's the same, but the words are different.
Student organization.
Student clubs or equal access.
Okay, see, this is a good example. You gotta go a couple.
What is the number on that?
3225.
You're gonna have to click a couple of times. Oh, a lot of times. And then if there's a big skip, just go to policy.
Who did transportation?
We're still getting to it.
Student clubs equal access.
Mm-hmm. And then we can keep the name, our title.
I like student organizations. I think that's more comprehensive rather than just student clubs.
Yeah. It's really similar to the one we had. You'll see the highlights were referenced, St. Mary's policy on student discipline and orderly conduct and respectful behavior. And instead of a district teacher had to be the sponsor, we opened it up to a district employee could be a sponsor of a club or organization. At the very end, we added, if it's a non-sponsored club or organization, number 10, that they'll need to fill out the facilities use agreement, which is part of our 802 policy.
But if it's sponsored, it's already given that status.
Correct.
Dr. Inch, if it's non-sponsored, do they need to have their own insurance? Is that taken care of in the policy?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, it is under, yes, the facilities use 802 speaks to having insurance.
So are there clubs that are linked to religion or political beliefs? Because I saw that was struck out that districts should not sponsor clubs which advocate particular religious or political beliefs or ideas.
We put it all back in, because I at first was like, we don't have any non-sponsored clubs, and it was like, oh, yes, we do, so we put it back in.
Okay.
It was like, I struck it out too soon.
Do we have a current list of clubs that are sponsored or
Non-sponsored?
non-sponsored?
Mm,
Is there a list of some
That's a good question.
somewhere?
I mean, we probably don't have one.
non-sponsored, I know football and wrestling, well, football is, wrestling's not anymore.
Well,
Cheerleading,
because I know we
Should
did
we-
have shooting.
trap club.
Trap club is
Do they
that
use
still in
school
existence? Are they still doing it?
Trap club?
Huh?
Yes.
I didn't
Yeah,
hear anything
probably.
about them this year, so.
Yeah, I don't, do we have a culminating
The closest we could have is,
list?
is
Our
their,
school.
if they bring any money or have any expenditures, then they
You
would
have
have
that.
that report that we give to you monthly on the building activities. There would be an activity for each, or a line item for each club or class or activity. If we have something that doesn't have any expenditures or bring in any money, then they wouldn't be on that list, but I don't know if there is. So,
It would be probably beneficial to the district to have those clubs listed.
Mhm.
I mean, not just for whatever liability,
I would
but
imagine that, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, go ahead, go
interrupt you,
ahead.
But I'm wondering if the high school, so if their handbook, yeah, would have a list, maybe.
well, but so if I'm a parent that's looking to move here and I wanna see if they've got whatever
Right.
clubs.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Because
because
the handbook's on the website.
That's right.
have it on the website.
Yeah, so I would imagine it would be in there.
I like that idea too of just having
it
a
listed.
one consolidated list that's centralized. And then it's just reinforced if you go to one specific school and see it again.
and seeing what you're funding in those levies too.
True. That we won't have it in policy, but it's a good note of good communication.
Right. Sorry, I was like.
Actually, I think
No,
that would be
I like
a
it.
really
A selling
great
point.
tool, especially for things like, football, we were gonna have huge teams this year. And if they weren't allowed to use the field because of non-levy, levy funds weren't
Mhm.
passed.
Yeah.
That would be,
Good talking point.
yeah,
Well, athletics in general.
but
So
I mean, to hit those parents of the kids
Oh, I
that maybe
gotcha.
currently aren't, it's not too big of a
Right,
deal
there's
to
that
them, but, yeah.
I
Families.
understand.
Jody, I remembered that when the trap shooting came up, this is something really
Side note.
long time ago. The process in which an organization becomes a sponsored club of the district. So they weren't necessarily a school-sponsored club. They had to be in some sort of category for like 3 years or something, that they had to be in existence and show that they were actually being active before they could then come back and want to be an official school club.
Boy, I've eaten slips since, so I have.
I
no
just
idea.
remember something like that being discussed, and I just didn't know if that fell in. I didn't see anything in here, and I don't remember why that was being discussed that way.
Commitment.
I wonder if there's like a probationary.
But I don't
period
see
or
it in this policy. I didn't see it in the policy, and I don't remember. So I guess if we look back at the status of what.
Yeah, I might have to
shooting-
ask Mr. Asbury on
If
that.
the trap shooting club, what their status is right now and what they're doing. I don't know, I would just like to specifically see that club advance, and I didn't know what that status was, because that was probably one of the newer ones that was introduced to us
Mhm.
in the district. Because there's other districts nearby that are absolutely just blowing the doors off, and they've got so many kids involved, and it's, they're doing a great job. I mean,
Figuratively or literally.
both.
I know.
And I mean, they're looking at going to nationals. I don't know if they made it there or not, but because that one is so new, I thought that would be a place to start to look to see what the status of that one is.
Yeah.
And then maybe put that kind of definition of what is the process to become a club. Because they have to prove that they're actually organized enough
Mhm.
to be.
You just can't have something.
Yeah,
thrown
we're just
together.
not gonna, accept everybody, first year in. They had to be like
And it dissolves, yeah.
a
Sustainable.
non-sponsored club for 3 years, and then when they come back, then they can apply to be an official
Yeah.
school.
Sounds like a probationary
You
period.
might
Kind
get
of,
with
it's
Mr.
just their
Asbury on that,
organization,
because I
their
think he
commitment.
was.
He would,
got
he
that-
knows a lot.
Yeah, he got that going,
Mhm.
if I remember right.
And that would help, clarify that process for anybody who did want to start another one of some sort.
Yeah.
So you do,
Because along with-
Barely.
Well, we might get in with, our other policies, we may introduce another shooting sports of some kind, or gun
Lawn
safety
darts.
or something. Lawn darts. Cornhole's coming back.
Hey,
Yeah.
Croquet, if you want. Lawn bowling.
Yeah.
we digress.
Okay.
All right.
Still on board there.
We're good with that one?
We're gonna call it student organizations. Is that correct?
Yep.
We'll make that change.
Okay, moving on to board policy 1003.04, 4120. Patron grievance.
This one, well. Let's see.
Seeing the light on the end of the tunnel.
This one says something different. Uniform grievance.
Uniform grievance versus. Versus patron grievance. Mostly it was a lot of formatting changes so far. Content hasn't really changed. Again, when there's reference to policy in the body, we used our policy numbers. Like for classified grievances or for certificated grievances.
Should we stay with our title?
Uniform grievance versus patron.
Well, the patron grievance rather than the uniform grievance
Mhm.
procedure.
Uniform sounds like it'd be teachers having a grievance or something too, right?
Mhm.
Patron grievance.
Yes, please.
And then also with this one, in the process, well, not till August now, working with SMEA, they had some ideas on not changing any of the content, but adding some specificity. So it's just a little more clear on the steps or the sequence of steps you go through if there is a grievance.
There's no specificity in this if there's a grievance with the superintendent. And I don't know that there's anything if you have a grievance with the board.
I think that's in a different policy, if you give me a second.
Okay.
There is another policy that talks about if there's a grievance with principal, superintendent, board. I need to think of the name. I could just do some searches.
Is there a reason it would be different policies?
I think that if I remember correctly or reference the other ones, I think it just was different protocols or steps. But I'll have to look at the other policy to see if they should be separated
Yeah, I just
or combined.
was wondering if we're trying to get rid of having so many policies.
Sure.
I think it's the level 4.
Yeah, either that or incorporate that as
Mhm.
far as reference in this policy.
Mm-hmm. I have to read the other ones to see. Yes, there are times that we want to consolidate.
Got that in your notes?
I have the title
Just
change,
grievance in
not the other
general.
one yet. If you do,
We're good? Okay. Moving on, board policy 70201, 8100 transportation.
no record. What?
I think what Jenny's referencing is the level 4 that's already in that policy.
Oh, that's more of their,
Maybe not.
I interpret it as, somebody has a grievance with the staff or, and then those are the different levels, so if they couldn't work it out with the staff, then they go to the principal. If they didn't like the principal's investigation response, they go to the superintendent. If they didn't like the superintendent's response, they go to the board.
Oh, I follow
Jenny's
you. I
referencing
follow you.
when to make a grievance against the superintendent or
I
the board,
gotcha.
what you do.
So where are we? Where are we?
I think we're at the next
We are
one.
moving on to.
So I'm still writing some notes.
Did anything else come up with looking for the other grievance?
Not yet. I haven't gotten very far.
I was distracting.
And I'm just trying
Well,
to write the notes if I
My
don't find it
assumption
tonight.
is that the
Well, I'll be
superintendent
just
have a
notes
good
for the second reading.
discussion with the board.
Correct, you just go once. Yeah,
Now, if you have a problem with the board, that's settled at the election booth.
that's right.
How else are you gonna do that? You're not,
That's it.
I guess. Oh. We're on transportation.
Transportation,
This one has some changes.
a lot of green.
Yeah, well, I did a lot of consolidating is what I did.
Okay.
So a lot of the green is, and I'll get there in a second. A lot of the green is taking our policy, current policy on regulations and our transportation policy that listed student conduct and inserting it into this one. So here's a little example of consolidation. Taking our student conduct, inserting it into our transportation policy, taking our safety regulations and consolidating into this transportation policy. I think that's where most of the green is.
Okay.
Oh, and transportation department liked that the entire citation 1, what happened citation 2, so they liked that in the policy that it could spelled out. So I took that from our current transportation policy, inserted it into this one.
Good. Now if they just write it and follow it.
I'll look at it again, but
I don't have no more arrow, I was like, print.
thank goodness. Oh, copyright was like,
Because the rest is
copyright was number 1, is that the
their
first one?
policy.
Oh, we don't have one on
Yes,
copyright, so
it's-
it'll be the first one.
So we gotta go back to the beginning?
Oh, we didn't have one on that.
Correct.
Okay, so we have to go back to the revision project.
Yeah,
Uh-oh,
and type in 2150.
What are we moving on?
Go all the way up to, go to policies.
my deal shut down, so I guess I'm
Click on
done.
policies.
That's it when the battery runs out.
Yeah.
No,
And
What's on
then
it?
come down here, revision
it
project.
says error.
Okay. And then you're gonna look for policy
Oh.
2150.
Huh.
Copyright.
So 2150, 2420 are not being reviewed tonight.
Yeah, they are.
21.
Oh, wait.
Towards the top.
I don't know.
It's the third one down on the home.
So you gotta go back,
20
back to the beginning.
Mhm.
Say it again,
So
Ted.
let's just.
The last two, 2150 and 2420.
Yeah, we're trying to get to 2150 right now.
So just that little search bar works
You
really
go-
great. Search and then just put in the
It
number.
does work.
Oh, I just go to policies and go down to revision project.
Yeah.
And
I go
then
to
it has
working
them all listed. And then you pick the one.
I
Then
like
you
the search
home,
function.
on the home.
For
I
that.
like the search.
There's no color on mine.
No color.
The search, isn't that nice now?
Yeah.
Oh,
Put in the number,
the
bam.
You just have
hours.
to remember to clear your filter sometimes. I learned the hard way, because it'll narrow your search.
Yeah.
And say no
Oh.
records found. Well, when it says no records found, that's a hint.
Clear your filter, huh?
So this is
You got the filter.
adopting a
Clean it.
new policy.
Here it is.
Oh.
It's really basic.
Yeah.
It's copyright, right? There's copyright law out there, so it's just asking us as staff to abide by the copyright rules.
I don't want to go back, but I am. transportation, there's simply all these additions are
Yes.
are being incorporated.
So, yeah, Ted, this was a good example of us trying to consolidate. So we took a little bit of our old transportation policy about eligibility to ride, because we have the 1 mile, 1.5 mile, you can be reimbursed. So we included that because that's unique to St. Mary's. Then our transportation department liked student conduct policy to be added right into the transportation policy, so people can see really clearly, these are the expectations, and this is what happens with consequence or citation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
My question is, why does it take 5 before they're coming before the board to, say that they still need their student transport, even after whatever aberrant behavior they've had? Like, there's been a lot of things,
Mhm.
that happen on the buses, and I just think maybe we need to be a little bit tougher.
Counting to 3 instead of 5.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd like.
especially when there's such
Suspension
age
starts at
ranges.
3.
Like, we have preschoolers riding with these high schoolers who are
Learning bad
committing
things.
crimes
Yeah.
on the bus in front of them.
And then we still have to-
And we still have to transport
back
them.
on tomorrow.
And maybe we need to have more conversation with, Teresa, you've been
Working with them.
working with them very closely, but maybe they need to feel like they can be stricter, because I have watched teachers or bus drivers be like, no, this is a good little boy. He is not getting anywhere near that rough end, and move it. And be like, no, not having him polluted by that, and have him, and just move him. And I've seen that happen a few times, and it's great,
Well,
but I want them to feel empowered to be able to be.
I would say we need to have, is her name Janie?
Yeah.
Janie, discuss that with the bus drivers. Say, we're looking at implementing only 3 and get their feedback brought back to us,
I think it's a
please.
great idea.
Yeah,
And principals.
because then, inevitably, they're the ones that are gonna have to, push
And they probably
And
have
I-
some really good things to say about what we should do or
I
have
feel
good
like
ideas.
they're, they probably feel intimidated too by like, okay, if it takes 5 before I'm gonna.
Before they
really
start
get any
listening
response,
to
you know?
Well, 3, they get suspended for starting for a week at
Yeah.
3. I'm just saying, nothing. I'm not.
What are
Right.
the
I'm
consequences at 1 and 2?
The
The parent
driver
gets called.
notifies the parent, and then 2 is the driver notifies the parent for a meeting and includes the principal, and then 3 is suspension, 4 is a greater suspension, 5 is expelled.
no.
So they wrote this, and they did review this, but I could certainly take it back to them to say, hey, you've got a board and you've got public wanting to.
I would say put the first 3 on there, and then the 4th one would be expel.
I don't know about like necessarily expelled, but like having them responsible for getting their student to the school on their own.
By
Well,
expelled, would
I-
expelled from the bus?
Okay, not
Sorry, from the
expelled.
bus, yeah.
Expelled
So-
from the bus.
From the bus,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
So as soon as,
Okay,
Well, I
let's
mean, I know
clarify
some of
that.
the bigger does dictate.
once they get citation 3 and they get suspended for a week or more, their
Find your own way.
guardians
Yeah,
and parents have to find their own
Right.
way at that point. Attendance sometimes becomes an issue at that point.
I don't think there should be a second one. And once you've lost privileges for a week, you either fix it or you're gone. One more and you're gone.
Well, and here's the thing, not to get off track, but I had a little stinker in front of my house here about a week ago, causing trouble on a dirt bike. And of course, I went out there, tried to tell him to go away, and it kind of didn't really go real well. But anyway, I went to a former bus driver who had that kid on that bus, and she told me that how awful he was, and he finally, she said, really, I didn't want to fill out anything. I just went and talked to the dad, and it got a little bit better, but that was it. So,
Yeah, there needs to
you're
be
gonna have
more
to make sure that the
Encouragement.
drivers,
That they are.
that they bring this stuff forward. I don't care who the kid is. If they're being
Well, because
mischievous,
it
then they
it
need
shows
to,
the rest of the kids on the bus.
Yep.
That's what.
that's a
the
privilege
issue
to ride the bus.
Is
Right.
that if they see that they don't see that there is consequences and a system being followed, when somebody just goes and talks to the dad by themselves,
Mhm.
well, that doesn't get transferred to the larger community.
Well, 9 times out of 10, that doesn't do any good anyway.
And most of our bus
Talking to
drivers
the
are,
dad, yeah.
over 60, and unfortunately, a lot of these kids just don't have
respect.
Well, that's the biggest thing right there is there's no respect.
So,
But if word gets around
Yeah.
and you kick a
No,
couple kids
yeah,
off and they gotta
St.
find
Mary's
their
is
own way,
hard
you know,
nosed.
and others
Get her
are
down to
like,
one violation.
you better not, because I am not driving your butt to school.
And is
Yeah,
there?
they
is
are
there-
already that happens
Is
with
there anything
this.
in policy about technology
And
on
the
the
principal.
buses?
There should
Yeah,
be
there
none.
is. So
Is
this,
there none?
well, actually, a lot of drivers use that as a accommodation to keep kids calm. But under the.
So then they're showing all sorts of things to.
So
kids
there
that
you
way,
go
all
with
sorts
the
of
average
things.
age of pornography being 8. Yep. Because that's what, either that or we start having age levels sitting together.
Can we put some kind of a blocker on the buses? When they get on there, they can't.
I think there's natural blockers because there's very limited. There's
Well,
very
yeah, you got
limited
limited
exception, limited.
self-service.
Yeah.
Very
So I
Get
think
the
if they're not
Benelog or
supposed to
you're
have
coming down
technology out of
Post Gulch
school,
or-
they shouldn't have it out on the bus, because what we preach to them is, you're on school property until you get off of that bus, and so you should act accordingly.
Yeah, these are certain, like if it's written into a student's IEP, and then it's, really specific.
But that's just speaking of the students with the IEPs, I mean,
Yeah, that's what I'm speaking to with some of the
Yeah.
technology. It's an accommodation.
But
But that's a limited
But-
number of kids.
Correct. It's
Yeah.
otherwise, it's part, under
It's
the
getting bigger every
governing,
year.
so, and then to that though, too, I mean, there, you could have a student who says, well, he's got his phone out, why can't I have my phone out?
Yeah.
And then you have to go down the road of, well, he's got an IEP.
it's not usually a phone. So anyways.
We don't have staff or finances to have somebody else on the bus as.
It's very
For some of
tough,
them.
very tough. Some of them you do when you got,
Yeah.
IEPs on there when you have to have somebody on there.
Right, for that, but say there's a bus where you don't have anyone with IEPs, that they don't have a one-on-one aid, we don't have anyone to man those,
Right.
right? So we
Right.
wouldn't have anyone to enforce anything.
Yeah.
To make sure that that student with the IEP
You're-
isn't
you're-
looking at things.
Yeah, you're lucky you have the bus driver.
Right,
They're driving.
We have a camera.
I mean, yeah, there is cameras. We watch many. Technology doesn't seem to be an issue when there are disruptions on the bus. It's been other behaviors, inappropriate behaviors.
Sure.
What was I gonna say? Oh, no, it's something else. Oh, yeah, and then in terms of personnel, I mean, we post for bus aides, if you will, to have another person ride the bus. Based on the size, how many students might be on that bus. Every year that changes a little bit. So we ask
Yeah.
drivers, to submit something like, hey, it's a 3+ hour course. I'd love to have a bus aid. Or, hey, this year my route is really full. I'd love to have a bus aid. We haven't had a lot of success in finding those people, but we did brainstorm, how can we? So we've managed to find, I think we're up to 3. At least, and when the bus drivers narrowed it down and were paying attention to when were the citations, when were the inappropriate behaviors, it was mostly in the PM route. So we're like, what if we find people for the PM route? So I think we're up to 3. And then we just made some plans to go out and really advertise at the churches, at retirement homes, and different local organizations and open houses to find. We found a couple more volunteers that were willing to ride an afternoon.
I suppose we could turn in some time into it.
So
Yeah.
ideally that helps. They go through some training in the fall about how to de-escalate and like how you manage a classroom, but what does that look like on a driving bus? Yeah. And we started, yeah.
You pull over, you open
You
the
pull
door, you
over,
tell them to get
yeah.
off, then you drive away.
You've definitely pulled over. We've definitely radioed back, coming back to the school. People don't like that. Phone calls home help for 80% of the kids. That phone call home helps. And we just work with the bus drivers, just like staff at the start of the year. Like, these are the expectations. We share that with families. And I know when a student misbehaves, it's a lot of paperwork, but it's important paperwork to stay ahead of it, to curb. Because the idea is to correct that behavior so it's safe for everybody. I will bring this back
Okay.
to them again.
Racing bus trips were silent.
Yeah.
Silent.
Okay, moving on to ISBA Board Policy
On the way,
2420.
Silence doesn't mean
Parent
innocence.
family.
Both ways.
we do copyright?
My racing bus trips.
Yes, they did. Oh, you-
2420?
Arrow over past transportation.
2420.
2420.
Yeah, I'll have to ask our drivers who are getting older.
Turn on the hearing aids.
Take care of them too. Oh, shoot. Oh, yes, this one. It's all coming back to me. This is a new one too. So just federal law, when we, as you'll see at the top there, we receive Title I funds, particularly at Upriver as a program improvement school. And so it's a great law. It just asks that we have an engagement policy on how, and so the law references have an engagement policy. Then they reference school districts to have a policy, so we have control on how do we want to engage or involve our parents. So it's a great idea and policy all the way around. We kept it as is. The only thing I changed was instead of empowering parents, I wrote involving parents.
So down on number 6, establishing a parent advisory board. Establish a parent advisory board.
So
That would be
Upriver-
something new that we would have.
Upriver and Hebron both have parent advisory
We
boards
already have it.
because they're receiving Title I funds.
So we already have that.
Yes. I had our director of federal programs, TJ Blackwell, look at this. Be like, are we doing all these things already? And I said, they're great things to be doing.
And he said we're already
Yes.
compliant in all of these.
Yes.
So are you going to emit empowering and put involving? Or-
We talked about that, using the word involving instead.
Okay.
And if that's the case, then I should cross out.
Yeah, that works. It's all about getting parents involved.
Yeah, I read that. That's a
What is
good
the
one.
parent advisory board at the Hebron?
What is it?
Like, who does that involve?
I'd have to refer to Principal
Okay,
Principal Haber, our coach.
yeah.
They have them like 3 times a year.
Oh, okay. Could just be one of the, there's so many things.
There's so many, and they're in the evening.
Okay.
What was, like the fall, winter, and spring. It invites parents up and really what they talk about the programs, their strategic plan, the goals, the progress they're making.
Okay.
How parents can help at home with the school, and then how the money is aligned to the programs at the school. Like,
Would that be the group that does the, like their reading intervention stuff?
Cultivating readers.
I thought when we did.
they might talk about cultivating readers there, because that's probably where some of the money goes to.
So is it like it's a group of teachers that's involved in the?
No, the school is inviting parents to keep them informed
Oh.
of the different
It's an
programs and the
advisory.
So they
progress.
should, that should be brought up at like the open house that they do before
Uh-huh.
school starts and everything, right?
Yeah.
Because I've never heard of it, but.
Yeah, I know.
I think it is done.
A lot of the beginning stuff that's talked about, I was
Because
thinking is discussed.
So like, okay, I think like the Title I night, that would be the Title I.
Yes,
That's it.
yes,
Okay.
that's it. Just put it the
I'm like,
Title I
I'm-
nights. Yes,
Missing something.
sorry. There it is. Title I nights.
Okay.
They speak to it at open house, and then they have like a fall night and a winter night for sure.
Yeah, it's just literally twice a year. Yeah, we need more.
We could have more. We could do that.
It's hard to schedule though, for sure.
It is, yeah.
Good.
So many
All the
things.
time.
I think so. I just.
Okay, need to review and consider motion to adjourn. Second, motion was second, all in favor, saying aye. Opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.